Over to you, Ray, when you're ready.
Good morning, friends. And it is near the end of the year. Where did the year go, I wonder? But today we have an interesting talk for you. This is an especially interesting to, I think, a large number of people. And instead of me rambling on to introduce this, I think it's best that I pass on to our speaker today, David Mowat, who will express it much more succinctly for you. David.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you for having me on this event, this discussion group. So I would like to conduct quite a practical discussion group and not speak too long, but have quite a lot of question and answer and input from you guys. I'm treating you all as consultants or advisors on what I should do next with the Gaza Families Fund. I'll describe the fund a little bit to start with and how it's grown. And then I will go through, I'll outline a number of scenarios for you. And then you just pitch in with what you make of them. So I'll start at the beginning. Um, I was last in Palestine in 2019, I think it was, 18 or 19, with a story gathering project with the storyteller Michael Loder. And I had tried to get into Gaza itself, but I didn't have the right kind of ticket to get in, an INGO, international non-government organization hat. So I couldn't get in. So I made a decision back then in 2018, 19 to make a particular focus on Gaza whilst other people were focusing on the West Bank. And I've found some people and I started donating a bit of money for humanitarian stuff, rebuilding after the previous conflict. And there were four or five people on my books who I was connecting to when October the 7th, 2023 happened. And the first thing I want to, um, I'll just tell you, no, I'll just tell you as I go along. So I'm going to show you something that will illustrate in figures what has happened. So here is an image, um, a, a graph rather. Let's get it to the right place. Um, so it's a sample financial analysis, and I've taken 3 years, starting with September 2023, then the
David,
following year.
are you sharing this? Because we don't see it yet.
Yes, I'm sharing.
We can
It's
see.
not on our screens yet.
I can see it.
Oh,
It's
sorry. Okay. It's
on
just me. It's just me then.
no. Well, I can see it, but I can't get it up and quite. They usually come up bigger than that, so I'm not
Okay.
sure if it's correct. But
And I've got it. It's different on I'm using my phone and it's
all right, okay.
multiple screens.
Can
It's
other
good.
people see it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
They
yeah,
see it.
it's good.
Okay.
It's good enough anyway. It's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah. No, it's
Yeah.
good.
So I'll just talk you through it. Um, there's these are figures from my bank statement. Everything that I send to Gaza, 95% of it is PayPal. There was a bit of Western Union, but that was not functioning quite a while ago. Um, and it all goes into a dedicated bank account. So I get all my figures there. Um, they're verifiable and everything.
Mm.
As I was doing this late last night, I was making some additions, um, doing mental arithmetic to add things up. So they're kind of in round numbers. They're not absolutely accurate. If you want the car keys, they're hanging on the hook. Okay. Um, so as you can see, to start with, the number of donations I started off with in September, I think I had Chris Quintifer actually was an early regular donor right from the off, from September 23 or even earlier actually.
Mm.
Um, and you can see the number of donors are going up, and there's quite a leap from October to November in 2023. And initially, they're very small amounts. Um, in October, 314. Then it's dawning on me I can upscale the amount of donations, and we get up towards almost £1,000 for um, each month in 2023. Now, this has been continuous donation throughout the last 2 years. And if you leap a year ahead, September 2024, we've now got 20 donors. We're giving to 30 different people that month. Um, I'm typically paying out up to 40 quid a time. And that month I paid out over £2,000. And then it sort of goes up and down for that autumn, winter. Um, yes, it stays at that kind of level. So it goes slightly down in December. And then you go up to this year, and it's a huge increase. In September 2025, I have 65 donors. That's not including donors who are ticket buyers for benefits, or who are attending a pub. There's a pub in Fishponds, the Star, where people were very generous, and the landlord, who's Irish, is really keen on this project. So you're talking of 100, 150 or so donors, raising that month in September 5,500, and the figures have stayed high right till now. Um, this month, and I just counted it late last night. There's 3,200. There might be a hundred or so more for some people I'm waiting to send to. Um, and the figures in brackets of how many people I'm sending to are people who are given to by people in Gaza. So there's one or two people I send large amounts to in Gaza, and they are humanitarian volunteers, and they distribute to their own different families. So right, so that's the thing, and you can imagine what it's like. You all know the chaotic, desperate situation in Gaza. You can imagine what it's like on my time and emotional toll. I correspond with each of these people in Messenger. The demand is always greater than what I'm able to supply. Sometimes I have to handle people who are desperately pleading, and I have to handle that. And I don't always handle that with a lot of decorum, to be honest. Sometimes I just stay dumb, or I try and reason and say, look, I'm just a very, very small operation. Once or twice, I've even had to temporarily um, silence people or block them. I just can't cope with the level of demand. But on the whole, people have accepted my not yet. This will be this date. Inshallah. Inshallah is a very useful and very necessary concept and word. Um, so that's the situation. Are you with me so far on the kind of the
Yeah,
scale and size of the operation? Are there any
yeah, it's
practical
great.
questions?
It's great, David. Yeah,
Okay. Um, as I say, all these figures are, they're verifiable. It's a one person operation. Now, scenarios for the way forward. I'm going to have to minimize the screen so I can see it now. Um, right. So let's look at scenario one to start with. Can you all see scenario one?
yeah,
Yeah.
Um, um, so I think this is the most likely scenario. Hang on a second. Alize, can you close my door, please? Thank you. Um, Scenarios for the way forward. So looking ahead, I could just carry on as I am. I've already asked people, donors that is, to do a standing order rather than a one-off payment. But I noticed that the people who have been doing one-off payments have been consistent, and they probably, quite a lot of them, prefer to keep it one-off because standing order fixes you into something, and then circumstances might change and you might forget to turn off the standing order for some time later. So I understand that some people are reluctant to do that. And if it's working, why change it? So it's a mixture of people with standing orders and um, and one-off donations. What motivates people? What's the engine behind this? Well, it's sheer compassion and sheer need. Um, the imperatives with this current situation is that I need to, on a daily basis, look after myself. I need to find ways to maintain my sanity, my mental health, and my open heart. I I can kind of mechanically deliver money, but I can do it in a cold-hearted way and try and switch off my emotions. That's not good either. So neither too much of a bleeding big heart nor a mechanical. I've got to find a way, a middle way, and that requires a lot of self-care. Um, so the advantages of carrying on as things are. So one advantage is it patently it works. I make emergency appeals on Facebook. I have a following. I have 3,600, I think, Facebook friends. And of these, I don't know, 30, 40 to pay attention. I counted in the last year, November to November, 127 different donors. I communicate them through Messenger. That seems to work. I think it shows that although social media is it's kind of fashionable to really decry it and say how addictive it is, how it separates us. Well, I think this work shows that it can work. Um, People's hearts are open. My heart's open, and when I'm feeling fed up with a thing, I click on my bank account or my Facebook, and I notice people have donated. So there is a flow happening. So it's working. If I really can't reach a goal, I'm sensing that I haven't got the time to put in another funding application, appeal. I can regulate it. I can say, okay, the money's going to come to my friends in Gaza a couple of weeks later, a week later. Um, so as it stands now, I can regulate it. It's flexible. Uh, as I'm working, relationships are building. Some people persistently stay in a kind of they present themselves as victims. I've had quite a dialogue in October with a blind guy, a guy called Laith Al-Najjar. Um, and I'm trying to big him up and I'm trying to say, look, you've got skills. Um, you're you're able to communicate with me. You're able to handle social media. Uh, you are looking after your very elderly mum with high cholesterol, even though you're blind. And he says, no, 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 I can't do anything. I'm useless, And we have a banter, and we build a relationship. And I think that's a positive thing of this sort of style of working. Um, so it's a working thing. Um, and also to regulate something implies a level of planning. In With planning, you need a certain level of you need some predictables. And this situation is so unpredictable. It is basically ongoing chaos and ongoing genocide. It is called different things. The media dresses it in different ways. But it is an ongoing, slow-moving, Auschwitz-like genocide. I'm sorry to say clearly what is happening. Um, so there's some switch to standing orders, which is helpful. The disadvantage of things as they are is that it keeps the power in my hands and the hands of the donors. It perpetuates dependency. It's a it is a rescuer victim kind of model. The relationships I have with people is skewed by money I give. It's highly vulnerable to breaks of communication and breaks of platform. Online banking can go down. I'm not currently complying with banking rules. This is going public. I can operate from a business account though, and not pay commission to the banks. So I know that that's possible. Currently, I'm using a personal account. Um, the PayPal rules, sometimes they mitigate against me, but people in Gaza have found ways round by setting up um, donor accounts from with other names, and they've just been handed over um, the identities and the passwords. So PayPal works. It's kind of ironic that these billionaires, many of them Zionist, American Zionist billionaires, have set up something that is really essentially useful and is keeping people alive, victims of Zionists. It's kind of, one of the world's paradoxes. GoFundMe is another American platform that is really, really clunky, and some of the people I give money to use GoFundMe, and it's been a real block in one case. Really bureaucratic, really inappropriate questions and levels of detail that are impossible to deliver. Facebook, another enterprise that sometimes blacklists people who talk too much about Palestine. Um, Currently, it's okay. Same with Messenger. Currently, that's okay. I'm vulnerable to donor fatigue, to people simply saying, "God, this is. I'm just so bored with the suffering in Gaza, and I'm going to stop giving." It's vulnerable to being taken down by Zionist activists who regularly take down pro-Palestine sites. I'm careful to keep it a hearty humanitarian thing. I'm not interested in dishing the Israelis or particularly attacking the Israeli occupation force. It's not what it's about. This is about a human to human reaching out. And please God, pray God, in the future, people are going to have to live together in that part of the world. So I am looking to a future where there's dialogue. In fact, one of the possible um, ways of building this campaign is to build to sympathetic Israeli donors. And I noticed that some of the recipients use accounts based in Israel, use PayPal accounts based in Israel. So it's not a completely black and white situation. And we really, really need to see the nuance, friends, in what's going on, whilst not denying the overall the big picture. But nuance is critical for keeping humanity going. All right, another possible scenario. I start to get completely burnt out with this. I manage it badly, and I have to wind it down, and I get a rest. That's obviously an advantage in that. Disadvantage is I know the genocide hasn't gone away. I couldn't live with my conscience, and beneficiaries would feel abandoned, which is kind of a double negative. Quite apart from the finance people receive, which is very real and very useful, um, and they buy food and save for tents, bedding. Last night, my friend Abir was saying, with the last lot I sent her about 10 days ago, she bought one blanket and she cuddles up to it with her children at night. It's getting cold. Um, Another scenario, scenario three, I'll be nearly finished. I think there's only four scenarios. Scenario three is set up a small Quaker charity. I mean, formally register what I've started here. So the advantage is I no longer work on my own. There would be a committee, a group of us. Um, and I noticed people like Helen Gamza, who's here. Several donors are Quakers already. So we have a shared philosophy, we have a shared understanding about that of God in everyone. Quakers have a great history of humanitarian intervention. Recently, I was reading about the Quaker involvement in the Korean War, during and just straight after the Korean War, massive um, aid intervention in a large refugee city in the south, Gunsan. And one of our Bristol Quakers was involved in that as a young man, John Corns. He died some years ago, but a Redland Quaker. He was he used to wax lyrical about that time in his life when he was able to help as a young doctor. Um, the advantage of a small Quaker charity is it's better more accountability. One person operations are very vulnerable to being. I could be accused of. If people did accuse me of fraud or wanted to examine my books, everything is there through PayPal and through my bank account. Um, it would make the whole thing more developmental. We don't get stuck in an emergency everyday response. We could possibly, b build something and then move towards another phase, another chapter, as people in Gaza get a little bit more self-reliance again and able to build something themselves. At the moment, every time they do, there's another missile strike, there's another downpour. So they're being deliberately kept at this kind of bare existence level at the moment. The disadvantage for me of option three is that there's more time commitment. Currently, I'm able to manage what I do in amongst my other commitments, family and music, um, work I do. And I know there's going to be a faff with the registration process, registering as a charity and all that, and possibly it's really a lot of suspicion to overcome from this um, systemically racist, um, Islamophobic kind of machinery we have in the Western world. Systemically so. I've come across it enough to say it's not these are not one-offs. Um, so option four, which is really quite an interesting one, is to set up hubs so that instead of sending money directly to individuals, I am the fundraiser. I or we are the fundraiser for certain hubs. And there's three people I've identified. I've had these brief discussions with them, whom I absolutely trust as being humanitarian volunteers, um, who are transparent about their own needs, who do everything they can for others in the best Islamic tradition of care for others. So these are Doa, Hamada, and Mahanad. Doa and Mahanad I know as journalists before I knew them as humanitarian volunteers. They have their own family responsibilities, particularly Mahanad. Um, but they've both said they're willing to be recipients of aid, and they have a track record of organizing with others, with their own teams, aid to be distributed um, in their areas. Doa has done remarkable stuff. Doa, she's like the publicist and communicator for a team of humanitarian volunteers. And recently, they set up a field hospital in places that medical aid for Palestinians wasn't reaching, and the big hospitals like the Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis. Uh, Khan is a massive hospital, half only half operational because of the war, well, the onslaught. But she's able to fairly quickly set up a field hospital. It's just incredible. The resilience and the resourcefulness and the gumption is just amazing. And by moving to that more of that model, it would be more empowering to them. We could perhaps a combination of Model 3 and Model 4. Um, so it has advantages. It's a more developmental thing, and the power goes to the hands of Gazans. It builds capacity. I can still keep emotional relationships with the beneficiaries currently that I have currently. If they're buying in, if these people are buying stuff, practical stuff in Gaza, they might get a better deal. Instead of buying from traders, they could get their own lorry through as a kind of pseudo trader, or and they might get a better price within Israel. Again, paradoxically, some of the stuff comes from within Israel. Some of it comes from Egypt. Um, the disadvantage is that I'm sure that the beneficiaries I have now will kick against it because It's like I have a relationship with them. They get money from me and my donors. It's very straightforward and it works. Are they going to physically be able to get to these hubs? Will the people who do the triage in the hubs and have so many resources to give out, and then they come across someone who actually, they have been my beneficiary, but they're not as badly off as like this orphan, in this drenched, puddle-strewn tent, um, who needs something right now. Um, so the beneficiaries, I think, pretty much going to kick against this. Um, do I have the strength of mind to disillusion them of their dependence on me? I'm not sure. And does this reflect my own need to be the do-gooder? The Auntie Lady Bountiful. That's sexist, isn't it? The Lord Bountiful. Um, um, So there's a bit of, I would lose a bit of control. Although I trust those three individuals, how, do I trust other people around them? There are certainly lots of people on the make. There are Palestinian millionaires who've made money from renting tiny, tiny plots of land for tents, who are making money from extortionate pricing, or worse, strong arm tactics, thieving lorries, murdering, and then selling things on off on the black market. Um, will they get control of this sort of thing? So that's a really challenging way forward. It's quite a creative one. Right. I've spoken enough. I've spoken for about 20, 25 minutes, and I'm going to turn this off. Except it's useful, isn't it, for you to refer to I just go through those options again, so you're in your mind what they are. Number one, carry on as I am, um, with a few more standing orders. Number two, stop the whole thing. Number three, set up a Quaker charity. Number four, um, set up hubs, or not for me to set up hubs, but negotiate with partners on the ground, literally partners on the ground, Doha Hamada, Mohammed, and the teams they work with, to be hubs, and to be the fundraising arm for that hub, as other people have done in other Quaker organizations. So if you can retain those in your mind, and if necessary, we'll go back to them to refresh our memory. So I'm going to stop screen sharing and come back to you.
Great.
Right. So the floor is open. Please unmute yourselves. Angela.
I want to go back to World War One because my grandfather's life was saved by, can you see it? The Friends Ambulance Unit.
Right.
I do family history. I do booklets for my family. Just to review, what I'm saying is, David, it has to be and. You can't do things on your own. And given the history of the Quakers who are against war, but working in war, I think you have to set up some kind of Quaker charity. You cannot do it all yourself. You will destroy yourself. I really am trying to. This is why I'm saying this sounds a bit possessive. The Friends Ambulance Unit in April 2015, the work accomplished. Wounded soldiers dressed in station sheds, 3,000. Wounded transshipped, 6,000. Wounded ambulance. This is the Friends Ambulance Unit in World War One. I'm going back there. I like history. How have we got? 15,000. Persons inoculated against typhoid fever, 20,000. Persons for whom water supply provided. Remember, on the battlefront, there was no fresh water because the corpses polluted all the rivers and lakes on the battlefield. I'm deliberately doing this with a sledgehammer. You have to set up some kind of Quaker charity because the Friends' history in war is They're against war, but they are about the only people who do actually what needs to be done. I mean, one of my ancestors, he wasn't a Quaker, but he was a stretcher bearer in World War II. You know, so please don't try to do it all on your own. Set up a Quaker Quaker charity, please. Sorry, I'll shut up now.
Thank you.
I was thinking one of the big things is that you have got too much to do alone. You know, I also like the idea of the Quaker charity, but I could see the disadvantages. I mean, my experience is that everything is really rather slow moving and it takes a lot of talking and then we talk about it again. And I wonder, would it be possible to set up such a charity, like with one hand, but with the other hand, you try and carry on as you are. Because I think setting up the charity could take quite a long time. And you could kind of, there are other people, I'm sure, who are going to come forward who would organise the actual setting up of the charity. You could carry on as you are, hard though it is, while it's happening, you know, while that is going on. So I would have thought up to a point, you could do both. I would certainly volunteer to be one of the people helping with organisation, I mean, at home, because you're going to need a lot of people. Um, that's mine. You know.
Thank you. Thank you, Patsy.
Yeah. David, thank you for bringing this to us. What you're doing is it's small and it's remarkable, and it's it's an example of what a committed person does when they just get on with it and do something. And I look at the news in the media, and I realize it's some huge big mess out there, and I feel I'm not sure what I can do. I don't have the connections. I've never been there, except I was on a peace project in Damascus, but that was different. And I feel encouraged and inspired that I have a friend who is doing something. That you create a personal connection for me to this. Yeah, and it's moving to hear about it, and it's great to see that you're doing it, and well, poor David, God, he's doing all this, but it's lovely to you're doing it so systematically. You're keeping track of the numbers and everything, and you're telling us, and you're obviously telling others as well. I'm rambling, but I'm rambling because I'm inspired and I'm touched. And I just want to, reach out a hand and say thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you.
And I would add my voice to, I think there's, both options. Carry on doing what you're doing because what you're doing is good, and it is what you're doing. And if it's possible to expand it and grow it, great. I've been doing my own little stuff with solar energy, and it's the same thing. I do the things that I can do, and I, extend extend a feeler in different directions to see if it can grow, and it's sort of all taking shape organically. And actually, for me as well, thinking it through with friends has a real value. That there is a group that I can come to and discuss my ideas and get some feedback. It all helps.
Thanks, David.
We all know that nothing ever stays the same. Change is with us always and will continue to be. And so it is with Gaza. The whole situation there will change. We don't know quite what it will do. But the fact that you are prepared to stay with this and continue. And I agree also with friends here today. You need other people to help you in this because burnout is a terrible thing. And I've known it with friends who work in the job I used to do, and after numbers of years, you can become severely problems by it. So your acceptance that you have to address this now is very good, and it's part of being us. But I would ask then, I think a fundamental question is, which one of those activities do you see as more acceptable?
Do you mean the options ahead, or do you mean, yeah, of those scenarios?
Yeah.
Can I answer that later? Can I get on?
Okay.
I just want to comment on Angela's thing about the ambulance. Um, there's a link, Angela. It's not so dramatic um, as the ambulance unit, but there is a link with kind of Quaker feet on the ground, and that's the ecumenical accompaniment program in the West Bank, um, who don't do that dramatic. I mean, actually, the dramatic first aid um, type stuff is the best aspect of international intervention in Gaza. When they're allowed to, the UN agencies uh, and the the international NGOs, not least Medical Aid to Palestinians, do just exemplary and incredible work. So there's no need to reproduce that. But something like an extension of the EAPPI program, a presence in Gaza, I'm advocating for. You might know that a minute came from Bristol area meetings to sufferings, and it's being looked at by Central Committee, QPSW Central Committee, which advocated for a non-violent peace presence. It kind of was kept quite vague, and I think modelled on EAPPI, and that's I believe will be considered in some form or another. Um, at some point. Yeah. So that's just otherwise there's other people who haven't spoken. So I like to hear what they think.
I say thank you, David, for all that you do. It's just amazing to hear how impactful your work has been. I do hear the cry for the need for support in the sense that you have a life, a family, and other commitments. And my sense is that the issues and problems are not going away anytime soon. The need is great. And I imagine the more people you can get on board to offer financial help, etc., the better. I can see that because you're in Bristol and you've got connections with local friends, they will support what you're doing without question. But if you want to go wider and draw in extra funds, I think something like a Quaker charity would give the legitimacy. And I think people would respond without question because they would know everything has been set up on a large scale. So yeah, I would be inclined to agree with friends and think some form of Quaker charity might be the way to go. But hopefully without you losing the connection, that personal relationship you've built up over the years. But thank you again.
Thank you, Rosie.
I guess I'd second a lot of what's been said. It is amazing, and looking at those figures, which we've not seen before, it's wonderful what you've managed just as a one man band with some other bands occasionally. um, yeah, and I very much heard the vulnerability issue, of such a situation, and it made me think of you may know that somebody called Joe Flanagan who with other people at Redland and not at Redland meetings started the climate choir in Bristol, sort of by chance, and it was different in as much as it sort of arose organically, and there were several people involved, and they set up what they called a core group who run it. But she was very much it's not the right word, flagship, is it? But she was very much the sort of central person.
Yeah.
And she's got a very busy and slightly complex family and working life. And she felt the need back in the spring to stand down completely for the sake of her own health and well-being, because she felt she was very near a real burnout, and could see that coming. Now, there was already the core group and other people who weren't so prominent, but were ready to step up and take the thing forward. And I think it's going just as well, with the tasks shared around. And it's growing. So I hope that if you do pick up the idea of the charity route as a good way, whilst continuing to collect individually as it goes along, that you'll pull enough of people generally in to support that, so that you're not trying to do all the paperwork and trying to do all the stuff in addition to what you're already doing. And it can be built, and so that if you need to take a break, or if for any reason you can't go on doing it, or as much, it still has a health and a strength to do what it's doing.
Thank you, Helen.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Hi, Sav.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
The screen's gone blank. Yeah, just quickly, I think, Dave, for you, it's a combination of number one and number three, really. Your uniqueness is that you've got people that you can individually communicate with and see the effects of the money you donate. I think that's just amazing. Rather than giving money to a big organization where you don't know where it's going to be, filtered down to. That link is unique, and I think that's great. But I appreciate the burnout must be getting quite difficult. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not a Quaker, but I think, maybe a combination of one, because you've got that set up now as a donor. I'm happy to carry on with that. And then maybe three, some form of charity or form of organization that can send the money just to give your workload lessened. I think that would be good. And I'm happy to do a standing order, or just carry on like I do and just send you the money, or the money to the charity, whatever you feel is best. And if I can help, I would help with some of the admin side as well. So, yeah.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Sav. Yeah, well, your pictures come back. Great. That's amazing.
And went away again. There you go.
Oh.
Stay with us.
Well, thank you very, very much for paying attention and coming on the ride, both as donors, over a period of time, some of you, and right now, this last period of time on this Zoom call. So, yeah, well, this has been a really helpful conversation. It's like I've been scrambling up a slope and I couldn't see the other side. And now I've got to a viewpoint, and I said my piece, and then I've actually started to see the view, listening to your feedback, which is really helpful. And of course, it's not necessarily one thing or the other. I suppose option two, which is to give it all up, is ruled out. But you've got three other options there, and a combination of them is the way forward, partly because they're all they're all kind of good in their own way, and partly because it's a process, it's a developmental process. The thing right now, it all rests on my shoulders, and that's how it is. But I could see that I can start to make moves of getting a committee together to work towards setting up a charity, finding out what's involved, um, doing some legwork, and that will take the time it needs. But as Patsy, you said, I sort of carry on. And then longer term, I think, or parallel to the setting up the charity, um, finding ways to keep working with those remarkable individuals that I mentioned, Hamada, Mahanad, and Doa, um, in Gaza, who are in kind of embryonic organizational situations, so that we got a sense of partnership, embryonic institutional partnership. It's not institutional, it's too big a word at the moment, but
One
something more.
thing sorry, David, I thought I'd leap in here and say,
Yeah.
because I've just been thinking about this, is that you set up this thing a while ago, and the situation is as more and more people come into it, this is inevitably going to change the development as it goes along. And this is your baby. Are you prepared for the changes that will happen within the future? Or are you going to be the harumphing a lot and going, but you can't change that. This is my thing.
Well,
It's something I thought I had to add.
yes, yeah, absolutely, Ray. So you and I are experienced trained community development workers. So we know I know exactly what you're talking about, and I've been there many times. You get founder syndrome where the founder clings on to the thing and wants it their way, and it's all presented as selfless philanthropy and altruism, but there's a lot of ego and fear and clinging on. Absolutely. So I'm used to being in this position. I do have those feelings of thinking I know best and why are you doing it that way? Um, but I know how to handle them, and I have handled them. Um, there was a case in Quaker history recently. I was the instigator of AEOB, Abolish Empty Office Buildings. I was the kind of the midwife of the organization, and I was clear that I wasn't going to run the thing. I was setting it up, and it did what it did, and it achieved what it achieved. Um, and I didn't feel the need. I I mean, I'm good at initiating things. I didn't feel the need to sort of carry it on. Um, Not that I could have done. And it had its own issues. Um, and the same with very recently with Cotton Club. When I started, I was often playing. I was always the MC. People look to me as a sort of Mr. Cotton Club. But 4 years on, there's an amazing committee for various reasons. There's a chance I'll be late tonight, but I'm very comfortable with the people running it because we set up a committee and we meet regularly and it's very hearty. So I'm used to handing things on and developing things and other people taking the reins. But it's a completely valid question, and I do have, on a human level, I go through growing pangs or letting go pangs. Um, if it comes to it, we'll see what actually transpires. Sometimes you just have to keep running with it until you're sure that what's in place is in place. Is strong enough to carry on. Um, And I'm with a bunch of people here who are very experienced. Looking at Patsy right now, who are very experienced at having embryonic ideas and setting up organizations. Uh, so there's a lot of wisdom in the virtual room. Um,
I certainly found from my own experience that having quite a lot of people involved early on was terribly valuable because of, although there are management issues, obviously, how you don't upset people and while you're busily taking on their ideas. And, there are a lot of problems. But on the other hand, having that wider perspective of a lot of
mm,
people with their experience of what they've done and what they've heard of and what they think is really valuable. So I mean, if you had nothing else, it's an advantage to have as many people talking about it as possible in whatever format
mm.
suits you and them at the time. Whether it's face-to-face groups or whether it's something on Zoom. Um, but either way, I mean, I think we're very blessed with Zoom. I wish I'd had Zoom 20 years ago. It would really have made a difference. But there you go. Yeah, anyway, my last contribution.
With Zoom, I can, although on this occasion, for connectivity reasons, Mohammed wasn't able to join us. He said he would try. He's in one of the worst areas in what's left of Gaza City, I suppose. He's on um, the right side of the so-called yellow line that the Israelis have drawn, the occupation forces have drawn. Um, but it's particularly hard up there for connectivity. Um, but yeah, I would try and make it as democratic and as spread as possible, whilst keeping it practical for sort of charitable law and so forth in this country. Um, well, so I've taken on board what you're saying, and um, I do think it's a combination of holding on to or carrying on with one, developing three, and at the same time working towards four as well. Um, and yeah, David.
No, I sense you're winding up, so I thought to just drop something in,
Yeah.
which is that I think this initiative, this having these littles, it's is it a discussion group? Is it a support group? But having this group is extremely helpful, and publishing the talks gives our speakers something to share. I did one a couple of weeks ago, and I've been able to share that talk with others, and others have found it at random. And sometimes I feed the transcript. Once we've put it up on YouTube, what happens is Patsy's going to get me the recording. I'm going to publish it on YouTube. Then I'm going to download the transcript. Then I'm going to ask ChatGPT to produce a summary of it, which will be quite lucid and insightful, I find, even for the speaker, because it sort of organizes things. And that transcript is something I can pop in an email and send to people.
Mm,
And I put a link to it below the talk. So people seeing the talk can find the summary. And
mm,
these tools sort of combining together, on the one hand, I'm here and I'm thinking, God, David's doing this all by himself. Gaza is such a big, huge place. It's such a big, huge mess. What can we do? But there's, all the lots and lots and lots of little people doing their small things, being somehow connected in a worldwide network, gradually has the effect of addressing these problems. So there's a small touches thing going on, and it's beautiful what you're doing, and seeing what the other initiatives that others put together as well. Um, like, it gives me some hope, and it gives me a feeling of involvement in a process and that others are engaged as well.
Mm. That's really helpful. That's really helpful.
I just
Yeah,
thought of one more
Patsy.
thing, David. I shouldn't have interrupted you. I'm sorry. Once it is an organisation of the sort we're considering, it would be much easier to raise money. Um, I mean, one way you can get a lot of money in quite easily is by engaging a lot of people to be members of an organization. And once you have people, even who are members, without waiting for this to become something big, a Quaker thing, before then, if we could work out some way that you could have members who subscribe small amounts each every month, that would really help you build your fund. Without quite so much effort, or as well. I mean,
Mm.
so that's just another idea to
Mm.
interrupt your flow. Sorry.
Well, you're taking the flow in the direction of the next step, which is appropriate as the talk winds up, because we're writing the first sentence or two for the next chapter. Um, I've really enjoyed what each of you has said. Um, and Angela, you broke in first with that passionate connection with the Friends Ambulance Unit. That was amazing. Really powerful. It's like I touched a core of what is truly Quaker history, and I was wondering about that, and you really it really sparked for you. And my dad was a conscientious objector in the Second World War, and that connects to my family history too. The things he got up to. He was in the a Red Cross paratrooping brigade of conscientious objectors who went all through from Normandy all the way through to Palestine. He was in Palestine in the end. Um, I think Ray, it's just past 12, and you do your rounding up. So I'll follow through with each of you. I'll send out an email and the practical things you were talking about, David. I'll just check in with you about that as well. So thank you to Angela, Sav, Helen, David, Ray, Patsy. And Ray, I'm a guest on your on the Quaker discussion group as facilitated by Ray and Patsy. So I'll leave it to you to finish off.
Well, thank you, David. And as usual, it has been an interesting hour, which could go on longer, but there you go. So those are these things we come to. And I turn as figure liberty to Patsy and say, so what's on next week, Patsy?
Next week we've got Oliver Robertson, and he's going to be tell us what brought him to being a Quaker. So that I'm really looking forward to that. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, friends.
Yeah.
For,
Thank you, David.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.